Hi, Crime Junkie Jurors. Yesterday in court was the last motions hearing before opening statements on Tuesday. So I wanted to do a quick recap of those motions and kind of dive into what they all mean and what they're really asking for. So here we go. First up was the Sallyport metadata. So at the Canton Police Department, there's something called a Sallyport, which is basically a garage. Now, this is where they took Karen Reed's SUV after it was seized. Now, there are security cameras in the Sallyport, so naturally the defense has requested that footage. Now, before the last trial, during the last trial, and even as recently as this year, some clips of the footage have been turned over to the defense, but many of them are inverted or missing large chunks of time or have basically really poor quality and you can't really see much. So the Commonwealth has said that the cameras are motion activated, but a key piece of footage when Karen Reed's car was actually pulled into the garage seems to be missing. So how could they be motion activated if a car pulling in wasn't caught on camera, right? Now, what the defense is now asking for is the metadata from the security camera footage. Metadata is information that's encoded into a video, like the date and time that it was created, where it was created, things like that. And that can show whether or not the media has been altered. So that's the other issue at hand here. The defense has said that the way that the Commonwealth saved the Sallyport footage actually alters its metadata. Karen Reed's team has requested the metadata once before, but Judge Canoni denied it. She said that they needed an affidavit from an expert to explain that the metadata would actually be altered if the Commonwealth saves the footage in the way that they have described. So the defense went and got their expert, and the very next day, after they turned in the affidavit from the expert saying, yes, this will destroy the metadata, the very next day, the prosecution saved the footage in the exact way that the defense's expert asked them not to. So here's where it gets kind of juicy, messy. You decide. A retired sergeant from the Canton Police Department recently came out and said that he was responsible for downloading all of the footage from the Sallyport camera. But we don't know what all of the data means. Is there more? Are there clips that haven't been presented? Have we seen everything? So the defense now wants to go and see what metadata they can get from that and see if there's any more footage there that they haven't seen before. Now, Hank Brennan responded to this and said that he's invited the defense to actually come to Canton PD, download anything that they want to directly. But they've already done that once. They flew their expert in, and that expert was told that there was nothing to download because it overwrites after 30 days. No one bothered to tell the expert that the footage actually does still exist. It's just on a different computer. So Brennan said that they can come again and download what they need. It just has to be in relation to Karen Reed's case. So we'll see what comes of that. If it sounds kind of confusing, that's because it is. So you can go back on my live stream and watch them hash this out because it happens around 54 minutes into the live stream and it kind of gives a little bit more background on everything. Now, the next motion on the docket was the jury view. Now, the jury will, at some point during the trial, go see the yard of 34 Fairview to get an idea of how it's laid out. Now, Karen's car, the Lexus SUV, is also going to be there. Now, the defense did a jury view of the yard during the last trial, but this time the defense is requesting that Karen also be present for this. So she would ride separately from the jury. Now, moving along, we have a motion regarding the dog behavior and dog training experts. So here's the breakdown of this one. During the last trial, Judge Canoni said that only a medical doctor can testify in relation to the causation of an injury. Then, last month, she ruled that the Commonwealth's expert, Dr. Crosby, is allowed to testify. So here's the thing. Dr. Crosby is not a medical doctor. He is a PhD doctor. His specialty is dog behavior. So the defense said, okay, well, if that's allowed, then here's our dog expert, Garrett Wing. So, who is Garrett Wing and what are his qualifications? Well, that's exactly what the prosecution wants to know. So, during the motions hearing yesterday, Hank Brennan asked the judge for a voir dire of the defense's expert because he does not feel that Wing is qualified to testify. Now, this would entail Wing basically coming in, being questioned about how and why he's qualified to give these opinions. And then Judge Canoni would make a determination on whether or not he can actually testify and tell the jury what he thinks. So now back to Dr. Crosby, PhD, Dr. Crosby's testimony. The judge said he is not allowed to testify on whether or not the marks on John's arm came specifically from Chloe, the Albert's German Shepherd. But Brennan said that he doesn't want to include Chloe, he wants to exclude Chloe. Dog bite comparison hasn't proven to be very reliable, and Judge Canoni actually brought up specific literature stating that it is not a scientifically reliable practice. Her ruling actually came out today, and she did say that Dr. Crosby can testify on everything else, but he is precluded from saying that his bite mark analysis was able to exclude Chloe as the cause of the injuries to John's arm. Now, he might not be allowed to say that part, but he is allowed to testify about the anatomy of a canine mouth and about the molds that he did on Chloe. So that ruling just came in today. Now, the next motion was, well, it was weird. So the Commonwealth wants to bring in someone to read the transcripts of the text between John O'Keefe and Karen Reed. And that's not something that's typically done. And the defense is kind of against this motion because they say that it could lead to theatrics, especially with different inflections or emotions behind certain things. The jury could kind of get the wrong idea depending on how they're read. So I don't know about this one. What do you think about this one? Let me know in comments if you are for or against, and I'd like to know why. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this one. And then comes Arca. So this one's complicated, so let's back up a little bit. Now, last year, there was a federal investigation into the way that the Commonwealth handled the case of John O'Keefe's death and the investigation into Karen Reed. Now, as a part of this, the feds hired Arca. It's a crash reconstruction expert company. They wanted to see if the damage to Karen Reed's car was caused from hitting John O'Keefe, and if John O'Keefe's injuries could have come from being hit by Karen Reed's car. So they did their testing and they found that they said, no, the damage to the car was not consistent with hitting a person, and John O'Keefe's injuries were not consistent with being struck by a vehicle. So Arca was first hired by the feds, and then the defense was given the option of calling Arca to testify. So fast forward to this year. The federal investigation has now ended. Both sides are allowed to reach out to Arca for more testing if they want. But Brennan says no. He says it's too late to have Arca do more testing, and he wants the defense to enter in all of the new Arca evidence. Brennan also wants Arca to turn over all of their emails, texts, etc., basically any communications that they had with the defense. Now, the defense has said, y'all have all of that. We have turned all of this over. But Brennan apparently doesn't believe them. He thinks that there's more. Now, Judge Canoni did make her ruling on this on Wednesday evening. So the defense has to turn over all additional discovery from Arca by Friday, which is tomorrow, and they have to disclose any oral agreements and or understandings about reimbursements or payments between Arca and the defense. Now, she also said that the defense has to disclose any testing that's been done or asked for, or any testing that's currently happening, etc., by Monday at noon. Now, the Commonwealth has hired their own crash reconstructionist for this trial. So what Arca is doing now, this new testing, is basically in response to that. So we'll see what they say. All right, and the last issue is Aiden Carney, aka Turtle Boy. Now, Turtle Boy is listed as a witness, and the prosecution has said that they plan on calling him regarding communications between him and Karen Reed because they say that those show consciousness of guilt. Now, Turtle Boy has pending charges for alleged witness intimidation in relation to this case. So his attorney said yesterday at the hearing that if Turtle Boy is called to testify, he won't say a word. He's invoking his Fifth Amendment right. So his attorney tried to do that on his behalf at the hearing yesterday, but Hank Brennan said, nope, I want him to do it on the record. So Turtle Boy was brought up with his attorney to a sidebar with Judge Cannoni, and he invoked his Fifth Amendment rights. Now, what this means is that he is now allowed to be in the courtroom because Hank Brennan has said, if he's pleading the Fifth, it's unlikely that I'm going to call him because he's not going to say anything. So just like last year, he'll be inside the courtroom if he's able to be in there, as long as none of the witnesses that are listed in his charges are testifying. So that's all I've got. It seems like we're getting all of these last minute issues wrapped up and getting ready for trial on Tuesday. Now, don't forget, I will be live every single day of trial, and we will be watching together, chatting together, reacting together, all on the new YouTube channel, Crime Junkie Jury, right here. And I would love for you to join us because it's going to be a very different trial than the first time. And I'm really interested to see what happens. So there's a lot of buzz around this trial. So come join us live right here on Crime Junkie Jury.